What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO0 back with another Yugi-Kaiba duel video. And in this video, I'm going to be showing off a game with the soul control list that I showed off in the last video. And I'm going to be using this duel to sort of illustrate an interaction that you always sort of have to be careful of in this format. And that's specifically how reinforcements and Waboku interact. So I went through the whole deck breakdown in my last video. Just to quickly go over it again, we have 3 Lodge-In, the premier beater in the format, 3 Neo, 3 Battle Ox, the level 4 monster with the next highest attack. We have 3 Man-Eater Bug to function as removal. We have 3 Giant Soldier of Stone, both to wall up to protect ourselves, and also to potentially get in for damage when our opponent doesn't have any monsters. And of course we have 3 Summon Skull, which is really the backbone of the deck. These combo well with Change of Heart and the 2 Soul Exchange to function as both removal and also to give you a powerful monster that can get over pretty much all of your opponent's stuff. For the spells, we of course have the 5 power spells, Change of Heart, Dark Hole, Monster Reborn, Pot of Greed, and Raigeki, all extremely powerful. We have 3 Fissure, which is just great removal. The restriction can be a bit annoying sometimes, but often you can maneuver to get it to destroy the monster that you want to. We also have the 2 Soul Exchange, as mentioned before, to combo with Summon Skull. We have 2 Swords Revealing Light, which is great at stopping your opponent's offensive pressure for a bit, and also potentially flipping over and destroying something like a Man-Eater Bug. We also have a D-Spell to mainly get rid of our opponent's Swords Revealing Light, but also to potentially snipe a powerful spell that they set as a bluff. And now for the traps, we have 3 reinforcements, 3 trap holes, 3 Wabokus. Trap hole, of course, functions as removal on our opponent's turn. The 3 reinforcements function as a sort of way to get our monsters over our opponent's monsters, and can also be used to put in a bit of extra damage to get around Waboku, which is the premier defensive trap in the format. Flip it up, don't take any battle damage for the rest of the turn, and also protect your monsters from being destroyed by battle. So very versatile trap, very good card. For the side deck, I believe we were playing this side, and there are a lot of very cool cards in here. Trapmaster is great against decks that rely heavily on Ultimate Offering. Wall of Illusion is great against other soul control decks. You can bounce back a Skull to Hand, which is potentially very good. We also have an Aquamador as another defensive option. 2 Judgmen if we want to go deeper in on the soul control aspect of things. 2 card destructions for Exodia. Dispel against decks that are setting more spells, and also against stally decks just to make sure that we have an out to swords. Another Soul Exchange to go with the Judges. 2 Just Desserts to combat decks that also rely heavily on Ultimate Offering, because this can just be a bunch of surprise damage out of nowhere, and if they're paying 500 each time with Ultimate Offering, then Just Desserts can be a great way to close out the game. And of course an Ultimate Offering if we want to go a bit more offensive ourselves. But now that I've done the quick deck breakdown, let's dive into the duels, and hopefully these duels will help illustrate a very important thing you have to keep in mind in this format. Okay, we got a game here against Alafia 2. We're playing Soul Control. Unclear what they're playing, so let's find out. They are going first, so we'll be a bit on the back foot here, but let's see how that works out. They're going to set 1, summon Battle Ox, pass back to us. Very good start. We're going to set 3, pass back to them. And they're going to try and bring out a Lodge-In. We're just going to cut that off right away. You know, if they have reinforcements to get over the Soldier of Stone, then this could be really bad for us. Also, we don't really have many other removal options right now, so it's good to just remove big threats while we can. They're going to attack into the soldier, and they will reinforcements to get over it. So I'm very glad that we trap hold there. They're going to set one, pass back to us. Man-Eater Bug is a very good card. We're going to try and go for the Lodge-In, though, instead. And we're going to try getting over this Battle Ox, and it does succeed there. So, feeling good about that. We'll set the D-Spell as a bit of a bluff, pass back to them. They're going to Change of Heart the Lodge-In, which is pretty rough for us. Means that they likely have a tribute monster to get it out of here, and they do, to summon Skull. We don't have any trap hole or anything, so that's fine by us. We luckily have the Man-Eater Bug to set, which is very good, and shows why you should try and use beat sticks to get over your opponent's beat sticks when you can, and when it's likely safe, because we wouldn't have been able to get over Summon Skull with Lodge-In. So it's good we saved the bug. They're going to Reborn their Lodge-In to get in more damage, and they likely have the read that we have a Man-Eater Bug. So this makes sense. At least this way they'll get to get in some damage, because we are going to just get rid of that Summon Skull, and they will attack in with the Lodge-In. Set one, pass. We have a Summon Skull of our own now, but we don't actually have any way to bring it out on the board profitably. We do have the Reborn to bring back their Summon Skull, which could be very good. So I think we're debating that, and I think we do go for it. Yep, there it is. We bring out the Summon Skull and attack into their Lodge-In. And now it's back to them. They do have a Fissure, which is a bit unfortunate that we don't get to keep that Summon Skull around for a bit longer. But it looks like they don't have any monsters to follow it up with, and we just drew the best card in the game. So we're going to Pot of Greed, draw 2. Feels pretty good. We're going to bring out the Giant Soldier of Stone. We don't have a trap hole to safeguard it necessarily, but we do have reinforcements and Woboku. So if they bring out something like a Battle Ox, we can reinforcements when it attacks in. If they bring out something else, we could potentially Woboku to protect our Giant Soldier and then switch to defense afterwards. So we feel comfortable bringing out the Giant Soldier and attacking in. And let's attack in. Deal 1300, which is pretty good. Giant Soldier beats. And now we draw Trap Hole, which is very good here. Trap Hole will let us stop whatever they bring out. So feeling good about that. They're going to set one, pass back to us. We do have Soul Exchange here, and we will fire it. I think that's actually a little bit of a mistake. But I guess we didn't want it to be a Man-Eater Bug and then lose our only monster there. But I think that's a bit of a mistake on my part, because this plays heavily into Dark Hole or Raigeki. So, oh, but they Trap Hole, so that makes it feel a bit more comfortable here. We'll switch Soldier to defense, pass back to them, and they will pass back to us. We'll switch Soldier to attack, attack in, and then pass back to them. They're going to set again, pass back to us, and now we're going to bring out a Battle Ox. So this means that if it's a bug, you know, they'll have to destroy the soldier to prevent battle damage. And, you know, if it's a Soldier of Stone, we do have reinforcements to get over the soldier, and we will be able to get in for more damage. This is playing into Dark Hole or Raigeki, just like the last play was, but I think given how low their life points are, and given that they trap hold the Summon Skull instead of leaving it on the field to Raigeki or Dark Hole, it makes it less likely that they have mass board removal. They could have drawn it since then, but I think this is a relatively safe play. So we will attack in. They're thinking, and they will Woboku this, just trying to, you know, they don't want to take the Giant Soldier in case we have reinforcements. So they're making it so that way at least they can keep the soldier and not take any battle damage as well. So they will Woboku that, and we will take 3, pass back to them, And they will bring out a Summoned Skull. So this implies that their hand was also a bit bricky, and they just had Summoned Skulls but nothing to do with them. So they needed a Tribute monster to stay on field. Generally, you want to save the Summoned Skulls for when you have a Change of Heart or a Soul Exchange to get the most value out of it. But in a sticky situation like this, sometimes you're forced to use one of your own monsters to bring out a Summoned Skull. But luckily we do have the trap hole for that. So we will be able to get in for a ton of damage. We do have the reinforcements ready to go to potentially inflict lethal. And we're going to try attacking in. And they will take it all. So in the damage step, we will use the reinforcements on the last attack to make sure that they don't Waboku after we use it. So now that we've activated reinforcements, they will not be able to Waboku because it's in the damage step. And so we will actually win this. And they did have a Waboku too, so it's good that we used the reinforcement there to deal the last bit of damage because they can't respond to it. So going into the siding process, I'm not actually sure if I brought anything in. We'll find out in game 2, but it's been a while since I played this tool, so I forget whether I did. We'll find out. Okay, we will be going second again. And they will draw, set 1, pass back. We have a couple options here. We could summon the Neo and just attack in, trade for it if it's a Man-Eater bug. But I think the better play here potentially is to activate the swords, flip up their monster. If it's a Man-Eater bug, it automatically dies. If not, we have 2 Fissures, so we can just clear it. And we can potentially just get in for damage. So that is what we're going to do. And we will just clear that giant soldier and attack in. Main 2, we're just going to set 1 pass. We have a Fissure if they bring out any monster in attack. And if they set a monster, not much we can do. We'll just have to attack into it next turn. They are going to bring out the Neo, set 1 pass. We feel pretty good about that. Even though we did draw another Summoned Skull, which does hurt a bit. But we are just going to Fissure away their Neo and then attack in with ours. And then we'll pass back to them. They're going to bring out another Neo and then pass back to us. And we drew a Lodgin, which is very nice. So we could just summon out the Lodgin and then try and get over their Neo that way. And that is what we're going to do. So we're going to attack in here. And then they do have something to protect their Neo, which is pretty rough. But at least our Lodgin traded for one of their cards. So it's not the worst for us. We also still do have our Neo to potentially attack in, maybe with the Waboku next turn. So it's looking pretty good for us. They're thinking. And they are going to set 1. This does play into mass removal a bit, but they probably figure that we have something to deal with their monster, and this is a good safeguard here. And, oh, they're going to swords as well, so that's also pretty good. This means that they'll potentially be able to get over our Neo next turn with their Man-Eater bug effect and get in for a bit of damage, because our swords will expire here. We have a Man-Eater bug of our own. We're not going to set it because we figure that their set monster is likely a Man-Eater bug, so we don't want them Man-Eater bugging our Man-Eater bug, so we'll just take the loss of our Neo here. There's nothing we can really do about that. And they will destroy our Neo and get in for 2150, which is pretty rough. They'll pass back to us. We have Soul Exchange here, which gives us another option. So we can either set the Man-Eater bug to remove their Neo next turn, or we can actually use Soul Exchange here on the Neo to bring out a Summoned Skull. So I forget which option we do. We do go for the Man-Eater Bug instead of the Summon Skull. I think I actually should have probably Soul Exchange to bring out the Summon Skull, just because, you know, they have to waste removal on the Summon Skull probably, and if they use removal on Man-Eater Bug, we're losing more value than we would be if they used removal on the Summon Skull. So I think I probably should have done things differently here, but we'll see. They'll bring out a Lodgin, and they will Raigeki, so that shows that we should have done the Soul Exchange Summon Skull play, because at least if they Raigeki'd our Summon Skull, you know, we'd still have the effect of the Man-Eater Bug to use next turn. We'd just set it on our next turn, and they'd have a tougher time clearing a face-down monster. But here we lose out on the Man-Eater Bug effect, which could be very big. They're going to attack him with everything, and we're just going to Wuboku this. That's 3950 damage. That's way more than we're likely to take on any other turn of the game. So we're just going to Wuboku, protect our life points a bit. And we draw Trap Hole. So now we have to do the Soul Exchange play. And we also have to do it in a way that puts our Summon Skull in face-up attack. We have to normal summon the Summon Skull instead of potentially setting it and having Wuboku to back it up. So this is a bit rough for us. We are going to bring out the Summon Skull. They luckily don't Trap Hole it, so that's very good for us. That would have been the big punish here. If they had a Trap Hole in addition to this, then we would have just been dead in the water, but luckily they don't have that. And this is our last turn under swords, so we can get in for it next turn. They're going to switch their monster to defense, pass back to us, and we're drawing very nicely, so feeling pretty good about this. We'll set another pass back to them. They're going to Dark Hole here, which I don't hate. That Man-Eater Bug is essentially a non-monster once it flips up. Sure, it can get an additional 450 damage here and there, but for all intents and purposes, it's not a monster on your field. So I actually think Dark Holing here is a heads-up play. Pretty good. And they are going to bring out a Lodgin. We are just going to Trap Hole that and pass back to them. We've got a Change of Heart to pair with our Summon Skull. It's a very good draw here. They are going to bring out a Neo and attack in. We will take it. Not worth Wubokuing yet. And they'll pass back to us. We have a couple options here. We can bring out our Battle Ox, try and clear the Neo that way. We could Change of Heart the Neo and try and bring out Summon Skull. We are going to go for the Battle Ox here and just pass. You know, if they attack into it with their Neo, we can Wuboku on our turn, which is a bit more heads up than the other way around. So they are just going to Fissure it, which is unfortunate, but at least that Fissure's out of the way. And we have a Fissure of our own, which is nice. So we can either choose to Fissure their monster here or Change of Heart and Summon Skull. We check their graveyard real quick. We're trying to see how many, fissures, trap holes they have left. So we see that they still have 2 fissures left in deck. So it might not be the best to Change of Heart, Summon Skull here. It might just be best to Fissure their monster. And we do Fissure their monster and pass back to them. They have another monster, so they'll be able to attack in. The safe thing to do here is Wuboku, just in case they have reinforcements. And we do, in fact, Wuboku this and pass back to them. We draw another Wuboku, which is a nice thing to draw. We are just going to Change of Heart their monster away, though, and attack in with it. And then we can Tribute, and we're going to Tribute Set the Summon Skull. This plays around Trap Hole a bit. They've used no Trap Holes over the course of their game. And we do have Wuboku to protect it from battle, and that will definitely play over Trap Hole if they do attack into it and we Wuboku, because it won't be flip summoned, then it'll just be flip face up. So we are just going to set the Wuboku, pass back to them, and they will Soul Exchange our Summon Skull, which is pretty rough. They'll bring out a Summon Skull of their own, and this is a bit of a thinker here, because our Giant Soldier of Stone will just die in battle to this. So do we even bring it out, or do we just Wuboku next turn? We're not even going to bring it out. We're just going to Wuboku next turn. Oops. I think this might have been a little bit of a mistake. I think maybe it was better to just set the giant soldier and Wuboku, but yeah, it's tough to say. We draw swords, which is very, very nice. And I think that we should set the soldier here in case they have Dispel, but we're feeling risky, so we're not going to do it. They're just going to set one past us. We can be reasonably sure that that's a man-eater bug. It's a bit tough to say. They could be bluffing a man-eater bug as well. We check their graveyard and see that they've only used one, so it is likely it's a man-eater bug. We're just going to bring out the giant soldier and try attacking into it if it is. And it does turn out that it is, so we'll lose the soldier. Pass back to them. They'll pass back to us. And we have another soldier, but we're going to set the man-eater bug to hopefully be able to clear their summoned skull. They're going to set a monster of their own, pass back to us, and Pot of Greed is the best draw that we could have gotten. Those are very good draws, too. So, this is a bit of a thinker, because now we have a lot more options. We can reborn our summoned skull, potentially, but that plays into this if it's a man-eater bug. And they do have 2 back row. So, I think actually the best play here is probably just to first summon Giant Soldier Stone, potentially bait out a trap hole. Then flip up man-eater bug to pop their summoned skull. If the Giant Soldier Stone survived, then we attack into the man-eater bug and potentially get in for 450 damage. And then we still have the monster reborn for next turn. So I think that's the play. Let's see if that's what I do. Flip up man-eater bug, pop their summoned skull, and then we set the Soldier Stone. I can see this as well, just playing around trap hole completely. But I'm not sure how I feel about that. Pot of Greed, they draw 2. They do flip up the man-eater bug, popping our set, and it's just a soldier. And they will attack into our man-eater bug. This is absolutely fine. We don't care about keeping this around. They will set 2 pass back to us. And we got pretty good draws here. We can test the waters for a trap hole here a bit with the battle ox. And it will get trap holed, but we do have the reborn to bring back a summoned skull. And we will be able to get in for a fair bit of damage here. I'm actually not sure how I feel about this. I think it's the right play. They've used up both their board removals, but they haven't used up all their fissures. So I actually think it might have been better to potentially save this. But the issue with that is if they bring out any monster and they have a reinforcements, then we just lose. So, you know, there's a bit of a choice there. We went for the more aggressive play and also a bit of a defensive play as well. So, you know, we've cast our lot in with this. If they have enough to kill us, then they do. They do have a fissure, and they have a reborn of their own. So, I don't think there was really a way we were winning this. So, yeah. At that point, at least, there was no way we were winning this. But, yeah, we've had 2 pretty good duels so far. I forget if I side in for the 3rd game. I forget. We'll find out again. But that was a pretty great one. And now we go into the final duel of an intense set of games. And this isn't quite the hand that I wanted. So I'm just gonna set a soldier, set 2, and pass. We have a bit of a discussion about Wuboku in the chat section. I think Wuboku is an incredibly good card this format, but it can feel underwhelming at times. If y'all have opinions on how good Wuboku is or not, I'd love to discuss it in the comments below. I think there's a really interesting conversation there. But it will it's a reasonable debate. So, anyways, they're also going to set to and pass. I misspell the word like in the chat. Uh, but I'm going to flip up a giant soldier of stone and attack in. And that man-eater bug will pop the giant soldier. Set to and pass. If they've got swords, they can clear this man-eater bug pretty easily, which is unfortunate. But I'm hoping they don't. And they don't. They just set one of their own, pass back to us. We pot of greed for 2, which is very, very good. And then we flip up the man-eater bug to pop their monster, and then we just get in. We don't really have any other good monsters to attack with, which is a bit unfortunate, but it is what it is. We have another man-eater bug in hand to deal with it, whatever they bring out. We also have the trap hole if we want to as well. So we'll let that Neo stick. We don't really care about it since we can get rid of it with man-eater bug on our next turn. We got a swords too, which is pretty nice for later. We don't need to use it now, but they will bring out a Lodgin, which is a little rough. And they're going to attack in with the Neo first. In general, I think it's better to attack with the higher attack monster first, just in case it is a man-eater bug. Gives your opponent a bit more of a choice here. But, you know, it is tough to say. If it was a soldier of stone, then they could reinforcements, get over the soldier, and then get in for slightly more damage. But, it's tough to say. And we draw a soul exchange anyways, so it doesn't matter here. We would have just, you know, soul exchanged their whatever monster they had left. So it really doesn't matter in this case. They're going to pot of greed as well, which is pretty good. And they've got to think here for a bit. It is a bit of a tricky board. We have 3 back row that we have not used yet, and what is likely a summon skull set face down. They've got to decide how to deal with this. They're going to soul exchange our monster and bring out summon skull. We will trap hole that because we don't really have any good removal options here. So that's pretty good for us. It also means that if they did soul exchange that, it means that they likely don't have another monster to attack into it with. So that feels pretty good for us. We're going to bring out a Lodgin and try and attack in, and we will succeed there. Pass back to them. They do bring out Battle Ox, which is okay in our book, and they will Fisher our Lodgin, which is kind of unfortunate, but what can you do? They're going to attack in for 17, pretty good. And we have a couple options here. We can either Swords Revealing Light to stall them for a bit. We can Reborn our Summon Skull, get a Beater on board to attack over their Battle Ox. There's a couple options here. We are going to go for the Reborn to bring back the Summon Skull, and that will be fine. We're going to attack into the Battle Ox, and it makes it. So we're feeling pretty good here. They will be forced to Dark Hole this, which is a sign that they don't have like a Fisher or anything to really defend from that. So it's always nice when we can force out a mass board clear to be a 1-for-1 trade. So it feels pretty good there. They do have a Lodgin, which makes sense. They don't want to just lose the Lodgin to the Summon Skull. So they will try and get in for damage here, and they will succeed. And we draw Fisher, which is very nice. So we're just going to Fisher that away, pass back to them. And they'll pass back to us. We have Trap Hole, which is also pretty nice. They'll pass back to us. And we finally draw a monster, so we'll bring out the Battle Ox. Try and get in for a bit of damage here. And we will. So they will Swords here, which is pretty rough for us. You know, we want to keep up the offensive pressure. But what can you do? They'll pass back to us. And they will bring out a Lodgin, which we'll just Trap Hole. We're not going to want to let them get their Lodgin over our Battle Ox. So Trap Hole's the best option for that. and they'll pass back to us. We draw another trap hole to replace the one we just used, which is very good. And they will soul exchange. And they will summon it, so we're just going to trap hole. And they'll pass back to us. We've got 2 swords. We could use the swords here, but we think they're pretty low on monsters. And we do have a Waboku set, so we're not too worried if they make an offensive push. They're just going to pass back to us. So we luckily have a Neo, which will stick the landing, and we will be able to attack in with that, bring them down to a measly 1550, which is pretty good for us. They're going to set 1. They finally found a monster, it looks like. And we have a bit of a choice here. So we do have reinforcements, which will enable our Neo to get over their monster if it's something like a giant soldier. So I do think it's best to probably summon out our Neo and then just try and go for game, which it looks like we are going to do. Oh, or we'll... Okay, I see why we're doing this. I don't think it's the right thing to do. But we go for a sword because we have a fisher in hand. So if it is a giant soldier, then we can at least, you know, get over it with the fisher. I think this is just a bad move on my part. They've only used up 1 giant soldier, so it... I don't know. If it's giant soldier, then this would win because if they didn't have Waboku. If it's Man-Eater Bug, then we'd lose one of these anyways, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. And now I attack in and pass back to them. I think maybe I could have fishered... Maybe I should have fishered that and just tried to attack for game. I think that would have actually been the better option if I was going to commit to the swords. I should have done that, but, you know, what can you do? They're going to set 1, pass back. Oh, no, they're going to fisher first. I think that's smart. And we draw D-Spell, which isn't very useful. Pass back to them. They're going to pass back to us. We draw another fisher. Pass back to them. Sword expires. We have Neo, which is very good. We're just going to preemptively swords this in case it's a Man-Eater Bug to try and just clear it, which I think is pretty good. We've got 2 fishers if it's not a Man-Eater Bug, so it feels pretty good. It's actually a Trap Master, which is really an interesting inclusion. It can really... Trap Master can really take people by surprise if they're not prepared for it, and we indeed were not prepared for it, so... They're going to target our reinforcements, which is pretty rough. It would have been better for us if they targeted the Waboku, since we have another Waboku in hand. But that's a bit rough. We lose the reinforcements, and we will bring out the Neo. And they are going to think for a bit here, and they will trap hole it. So that's rough, but they do set another monster here. And we do have Soul Exchange, which is nice. So we can just Soul Exchange their set monster, get a monster on field. But we're not going to do that. Not quite sure why we didn't. But, what can you do? Can't cry over spilt duel mistakes, you know. We are going to summon out a Battle Ox, and then we're going to attack into their Trap Master, pass back to them. Yeah, I think we should have read that that was a Man-Eater Bug or something. But I guess the Trap Master flustered us. Giant Soldier is pretty good. You can at least block their monsters potentially. But we're thinking here, we're probably thinking about whether it's worth double fishering and then summoning out the Giant Soldier to attack in for close to lethal. Oh, or we're just thinking about soul exchanging. Let's see, they have used up 2 fishers. So, you know, it's unlikely that they have a fisher potentially. But they could have one, which would be rough for us. They will switch the bug to defense, pass back to us. We'll bring out a Soldier of Stone here. and then we'll try and attack in for game. They are going to Wuboku here, so, we won't be able to do anything about that. We could get rid of their Maneater Bug with a Fisher, but I don't really see any point to that, because we do have Wubokus to stop them if they're trying to make an offensive push. And they got to think here a bit. And it's definitely a very close game. So, it's always worth thinking when there's a really close game and you're about to make a decision that could decide the outcome of it. So they will Change of Heart the Summon Skull, bring out a Giant Soldier, and switch the Bug to attack. And they're going to try and attack in. We luckily have a Wuboku, so we will be able to protect this, and we will get the Summon Skull back. They have swords, but we have D-Spell, so we will be able to get through that swords and try and attack for game over the Bug. But they do have Wuboku. We still have 2 Wubokus of our own, so we're feeling pretty good about that. But we'll switch the Giant Soldier to defense, set another Wuboku pass back to them. And they do have Raigeki, so they will be able to clear our board. But they only have 1750 damage on board. So they will attack in. And I just think of this as 1750, which is so far from 3250 that I think it should be fine. So I don't even Wuboku this, even though I have Wuboku to spare. And they will attack in for everything. And in the damage step on that final attack, they reveal that they have 3 reinforcements and will get in for exact lethal when we have 2 Wubokus set. So this is a very good lesson in always be wearing reinforcements. Always keeping track of how many back row your opponent has. And doing the mental math to be like, can this actually kill me if they have a bunch of reinforcements here? And if it can, especially if you've got multiple Wuboku and it's in the end of the game like this, I think it's definitely worth, just firing off a preemptive Wuboku, just playing it safe and preventing situations like this from happening. Because in fact, if we did fire Wuboku here, we actually would have won next turn, because we would have been able to bring out Lojin, and we could have fissured both their monsters. It's debatable about whether we would have done that. I think that it would have been the right play, especially since they'd used up 2 Wubokus. It was probably best just to go for game, especially since we would have had another Wuboku in reserve for whatever they had planned. So I think it would have been best just to, Wuboku this turn, summon Lojin next turn, and then play the 2 Fisher. But, we weren't thinking, we weren't keeping this sort of outcome in mind, and it cost us the game. So I think this duel sort of serves as a very good lesson for always keeping in mind this interaction, always being careful and thinking through everything that can happen with every given attack. So, reinforcements, powerful card in this format. Don't forget about it. Don't underestimate it, or it will come back to bite you. But I hope you enjoyed watching these duels and seeing this sort of lesson at play. And I hope that this will maybe help you if you're playing games in this format as well, to play around this common sort of mistake if you're new to the format. But until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.